Welcome everyone to the live webinar, L'Kovid Chof Shevat. This year, Tafshin Ayin Ches marks 30 years since the Istalkus of the Rebbetzin. And the Rebbe said many times, how v'hacha yiten aliboy. We need to take it to heart. We are pleased today to have with us Reb Mendel Notik, which is going to share with us stories and personal events that he had with the Rebbetzin.
Hi everyone, my name is Mendel Notik, not rabbi or anything, and it's my honor and privilege to come and share a little bit of stories, impressions, and zichroines, memories from the Rebbetzin. I'm almost 60 now, and when I was a bacher in Yeshiva, that goes back a long time ago, to be exact, about 4 years ago, but earlier than that, I think I was 17 or so. I was learning, but I guess you could say I wasn't the guy who sits and learns every possible minute. So I got myself involved in a lot of good things, fortunately, all around 770, from organizing the Farbrengens, the rallies, helping in many other things that involved 770. Those were the days when I first came to 770, or I first got involved in 770, what you may call as a little macher. The Rebbe wasn't giving out dollars on Sunday, so that didn't really exist yet, but the Rebbe used to give out sometimes to the Farbrengen, or when special people came to the Rebbe, I was a little bit involved in helping with Seder organizing. Sometimes I got privileged before I was married, and even after I was married, I was able to be in the Rebbe's room, or in 770, in the Rebbe's room, when certain people were visiting the Rebbe. So it was kind of a little bit of a, I guess, a reward for working hard on many things. I was involved very heavily in helping the logistics, helping prepare the mitzvah tanks. When the first got started, it was actually Tafshin Amidala to be exact. So that's, 44 years ago, I think, 45 years ago. And so I guess you could say I was a little bit involved in everything. At some point, I don't know if I was maybe around 17, I was asked by the management of 770, I guess at the time, and even now with Bichaim Boach Halberstam, and he asked me if I wanted to sleep in 770. Now, you can imagine that's everybody's dream, to have a bedroom in 770 that really doesn't almost exist. And actually, I used to sleep half the night, so you sleep in 770 just on a bench and a bunch of coats, people's coats that were left like in a Shabbos Aveda, because 770 would barely ever close the lights, and if you close the lights, it was like 3, 4 in the morning. You don't really want to go to a whole bedroom and the whole thing. But I did have 2 bedrooms in 2 different buildings of the yeshiva, actually. In any case, when I was to sleep there, I was super excited. I mean, can you imagine? Basically, the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin felt that somebody should be sleeping in 770 to protect, kind of in a way, a little bit 770. And the Rebbetzin sister, Miss Chanegurari, used to live upstairs. She was married to Rashag, who coincidentally happens to be the dean of all the Bible yeshivas in the world, and he actually built this building that we're standing here right now. In any case, so I started to sleep in 770, but I wasn't working for the Rebbetzin yet. It's just, I was like the natural guy that would be, since I'm already there, so much involved. Anyways, a while afterwards, Rabbi Kvinsky, Chaim Boch, and Chesed Halberstam, I'm sure you guys heard all these names, started to ask me if I wanted to work for the Rebbetzin. I basically, for a while, said no, for lots of reasons. And eventually, I guess I said yes, you might say. And the Rebbetzin basically doesn't really need a lot of help. It's not the job per se. The Rebbetzin needs a little bit of help sometimes to bring things from 770, or to be the connection between 770, whether it's a little tea for the Rebbe or things like that, or sometimes change of clothes after Farbrengen. So like a little bit of the kind of the mekasher, the liaison between 770 and the Rebbetzin and on President Street. Sometimes she wants to go to places. She drives. I was young. I didn't have a license or anything. So she drives, go with her to watch her car or keep her company. Could be a doctor's appointment, shopping, or whatever it is, or just she wants to go for a ride. And real work was mostly just really around Pesach time. probably don't need to explain to anybody here that the Rebbe and Rebbetzin, the Humorous and Pesach is beyond anything that you could possibly try to imagine. And just from the few little things I know, people always ask me, did the Rebbe do this? Did the Rebbe do this? Did the Rebbe eat this? I just know from the few things that I was involved in preparing them, short of the things for the Seder, which is obviously that the Rebbe takes part. So the Rebbetzin, for example, you would make, prepare orange juice to last, I think, for the whole Pesach. So we would do that before Pesach. And, you know, I never asked the Rebbetzin, does the Rebbe drink orange juice or anything, but how careful the Rebbetzin was to prepare it, it's almost like standing there every second. It's almost like my hand is just an extension of hers. I can tell, obviously, she wasn't going to have me work hard to prepare orange juice for her. I don't remember if it was a hand machine, but I'm pretty sure it was, but can't remember that for sure right now. It's been so many years. But like I said, the way the Rebbetzin was so careful, literally, I remember, I think one time she interrupted to go to the phone, which was just literally from here to the door maybe, and she says, hold on a minute, like, I'll be right back. Like, I have to stand and wait. So I can tell by that she was working super, super hard and strict to prepare it for the Rebbe, who is year-round super, super mahada. But on Pesach, it's like hard to even comprehend some of the Rebbe's Humorous. Excuse me. Another thing I want to say as an introduction is I come across like I'm some kind of a big maven maybe, and I'm giving pshatlech and explanations and how I understand this and that to be. It's my own explanation. It doesn't mean that it's Torah Missinai. It's just how I see it, how I understood it, and how I interpret certain things, and the feeling at the time I had, and maybe now I got to be told there are certain things how I understand. I'm not saying that this is, again, set in stone and its own explanation, and this is the reason why the Rebbe did this or the Rebbetzin. None of that really. So now till we got through the basic introduction about me, or how, so to speak, I got the job, because everybody wants to know, like, how do you get the job? So in any case, I was born in France. I didn't mention that. So which begs to explain, like, how did I wind up being there? You know, if my name was Unique or Gansburg or any of these people, and Holtzman, I can name different people over the generations and the time who all used to work for the Rebbetzin, the parents, the brothers, and so forth. But I was kind of I was not part of that group or anything, but it just happened to be that kind of became a macha. I guess I have a little bit extra energy. So, you know, if you have extra energy, you can put it to good use. And I wound up in that position at that point. Why do I spend a lot of time? And I'm always honored to do it. And I spend monies. Nobody pays me. I fly around to speak, and I sometimes give out souvenirs or whatever it takes, stay in hotels or whatever it is, because I feel it's my honor and duty to speak about the Rebbetzin. The question is why. First of all, I should explain that the Rebbetzin herself was a super, super quiet person. Not only did not like to be in the limelight, in the covered or anything like that, she was totally the opposite in a very real way. Just did everything possible so she's not seen as Rebbetzin Shneerson, and just completely in the background, so to speak, behind the scenes. Most Lubavitchers, no matter what age they are, had never seen the Rebbetzin. And those days, I mean, when I'm talking 34 years ago, there was maybe only one Lubavitcher even living on President Street on that block. So most people had never seen the Rebbetzin, and even if they'd seen her somewhere, they must probably even know she was her. And a little bit later, we'll maybe go into some of the stories that, you know, amplify that and show that. So why am I here? Because I believe that we owe the Rebbetzin a great thank you and gratitude for the fact that the Rebbetzin pretty much, in simple words, gave us the Rebbe. What does that mean? Now, of course, we believe that the Rebbe was born as a Rebbe. We all know that. In Yiddish, there's a saying, a Rebbe is a Geborener und nicht a Geworener. You're born. It's a play on words too, as you can tell. Excuse me. That the Rebbe is really born to be a Rebbe. And we know all the stories about the Rebbe. It's clear that he was born to be a Rebbe. But it's kind of, a Rebbe is born, but it also, you have to kind of become, and at some point accept, so to speak, this idea of becoming the Rebbe and the Nasi Hadoyer. And hopefully you guys are already reading, and your Rebbes are telling you, but as you get older, you'll read more. For a whole year after the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away, the Rebbe was clearly saying that he's not going to accept the mantle of being the Rebbe of Lubavitch, the next Doyer. And there's many, many stories of Hasidim who tried pressuring him. Some of them even tried certain, almost, I don't want to say the word tricks, but they tried giving the Rebbe a pan, as if he's already the Rebbe, and the Rebbe didn't accept. And later on, at some point, the Rebbe did. but everyone knows, and I'm not even sure how they know it, but it's been accepted, and people have told it to people who lived at the time, who went through that whole process of in Tov Shin Yud after the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away, that almost the final punch and the final push that the Rebbe agreed to accept the Nisias, he was basically, that the Rebbetzin told him, like, how can you let all the work of my father almost go to the wayside, or what's going to happen, in other words, with all the work that the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbetzins father, put in motion, first in Russia and then in America. He transplanted Chabad and said America is in standards, and tried to make, basically, not tried, made a revolution in America. Who's going to continue the work and everything else? And at some point, the Rebbe accepted that. And to jump a little bit later, actually, almost 40 years later or something like that, 50 years later, it is well known that when there was a certain issue with the Frierdiker Rebbe's Forum library, that one of the lines that actually convinced the judge, it's funny that the non-Jewish judge actually even got the idea and understood how precious and how important and how strong those words are. When the Rebbetzin was asked, what do you believe? She was asked that by the people in an official format in her house, but it was all involved judges and everything and lawyers. Says, so what do you really believe? Who did this forum belong to? The Rebbetzin, without, it's on a video, so it's not something we imagine. You can see it and hear it. The Rebbetzin will have to think for a second. She says, my father and this forum and my father, things what she said, all belong to the Hasidim. In other words, there's no such thing as a Rebbe, and then there's Hasidim. It's all intertwined in one thing. That will explain to us when the Rebbetzin decided to kind of push the Rebbe, or did the final push so the Rebbe would actually accept and become the Rebbe in an open and everyday, so to speak, format. She understood very well that she gave up her life. It wasn't hard for her to understand, and the reality was like that eventually, that the Rebbe is going to work or be in his office or away from home, on an average day, 15 to 18-hour days. Sometimes to come home for an hour in the middle or less than an hour, but the Rebbe was basically in 770 usually from 10 a.m. at least till 12 midnight. Anyway, so we owe a big thanks to the Rebbetzin that she pretty much, with Mesiras Nefesh, being totally in the back end, gave the Rebbe to us. And we need to thank the Rebbetzin for that. And to use the Rebbe's words, we should learn from the Rebbetzins ways to be better people. It goes for all of us. And since very few people know anything about the Rebbetzin and so forth, I feel that it's my privilege and obligation, since I was Zeicher and Emerita, to spend years with the Rebbetzin and to try to share with the rest of the people certain experiences and to try to understand who the Rebbetzin was. So I'll try to go a little bit on the Seder that involves my life story in the years I was by the Rebbetzin, because if I would stand here and just tell you stories that are available in books and so forth, I'm telling you somebody's stories. Here in this case, I'm telling you the things that happened while I was involved, that involved maybe me, but it's obviously not about me. It shows very in an open way and in a simple way the Rebbetzins the type of person she was, how she conducted herself. And I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to measure the Rebbetzins being the tzaddik as she is. Between her and the Eibishter, that's her business. And I, for sure, I'm not a maven at that. I'm barely maven even at the most simpler things. But I can only talk about the Rebbetzins, the stuff I saw day to day in the years I was there. Her benodam lechaveroi, between fellow men, between people and people, how the Rebbetzin interacted with people is something just beyond remarkable, if I had to use one word. And, I've traveled a lot. I've been to lots of yeshivos, partially because I was a little troublemaker, so I went to lots of yeshivos. And I've met a lot of people, and I volunteered in different places, I think, since I was 10 years old. So I met a lot of people. And I'm here to tell you that the Rebbetzin is an exception at every single level. And the greatness of the Rebbetzin, actually, is that she does it in such a simple way that you can't not realize that it's just her being and her mitzias and her entire personality. And I don't want to get off to another story, but maybe at some other occasion when we'll have more time. There's a story with a person that came to the Rebbetzins house, and he wanted to bring like bikurim because he grew it in his backyard or whatever, in Miami or whatever, and he misunderstood because the Rebbetzin was conducting herself so simply when she opened the door, and the Rebbetzin understood that if he realized that she was the Rebbetzin and not the helper in the house, or the home assistant, that he would like completely maybe drop the basket or get lost in the shuffle. The Rebbetzin, he spent with her like 20 minutes. He didn't even realize she was the Rebbetzin. She invited him in, and she said she's sure that the Rebbe is going to love it, and they're going to love it. She referred to herself and the Rebbe as they. Only when he left, he went back to the people he stayed at, which happened to be across the street on President Street. So he started to explain who the Rebbetzin was, what she looked like. He says, that is the Rebbetzin, that is no helper. But the Rebbetzin wanted to make him feel comfortable, but that's in parentheses. But going back to the Rebbetzin, whether the person who visited the Rebbetzin was 5 years old, or in my case, 17, 18, 19, 20 plus, or 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds. Many times I was there in the beginning of the visit. Sometimes I was there during the visit of people. Usually I would just help prepare the table or whatever, and I would leave. But I know from the people, I was friendly with many of them, and I knew many of them before and after and during. The Rebbetzins interest about the people, the follow-up, the keen interest in what they do, how the families are, how the kids are, if the kids got engaged. Everything she took, super interest, a great listener. My kids always tell me, Ta, if you had to describe the Rebbetzin in one word, not in many words, not in an hour, not in 5 hours of sitting and Farbrengen, how would you describe the Rebbetzin? A great listener like no one I've ever met. Not only does she not interrupt when you're speaking, attentively listening, she waits till you're done, completely you're done. There's a little pause in between, and that's remarkable. For me especially, because I'm a person who talks very fast and I interrupt everybody. So to me, that was absolutely remarkable, but just sits patiently and listens. At the end, asks the question or asks for a clarification or something like that. So a lot of the stories the Rebbetzin told me involve the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins' lifestyle, pretty much maybe starting Europe or Germany even, before the Nazis came, after the Nazis in Germany. Then they went to France. In France, they moved from place to place. Then they came to America. I should also explain that the Rebbetzin never told me, never even fathomed that I'd be standing and telling her stories. So it's a little bit of an issue we have, but the Rebbe said that we need to learn from the Rebbetzin. So how are we going to learn? In Ahora today, there's probably 10, 20,000 people named Chaya, Mushka, Musia, and Chaya, and any of these combinations. So how are they going to know the Rebbetzin was? Why are they named after the Rebbetzin? So we feel it's our obligation, the people who got to know her. And the Rebbe also clearly said that during the whole year after the Rebbetzin passed, that we should learn from the Rebbetzin. But in any case, so the Rebbetzin would be excited if she knew we were speaking about her. But more importantly, the Rebbetzin was telling me the stories, because I'm born in France. So big part of their life they were in France till they came to America. Before the Rebbe became Rebbe, the Rebbe was here in America. But for a long time they were in France, in different cities, before the Germans, during and after. And the Rebbetzin was basically telling me how life used to be. So when she's telling me certain stories, when I listen to them, and as the years go by and we talk about them and we schmooze about them, we get the deeper understanding how amazing certain things that the Rebbetzin told about their life, the Rebbe, the Rebbetzin, but it wasn't really about them that the Rebbetzin meant to say, just telling the story the way they were. Also the fact, like I said, because I was born in France, it was easy for her to share. So when you think of the Rebbetzin telling me stories, it's not just telling me miracles of the Rebbe, or how great the Rebbe is, or how people saw the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin as great people. The Rebbetzin is telling me the stories like a grandmother telling stories to her grandkid. I was a little bachero and came from France, and maybe it also helped. The Rebbetzin felt a bit more responsible to take care of me, even in clothing and stuff like that. We'll get to it hopefully soon. Because my parents were in France, and it's like another country away. Didn't even have a phone in the house. Today everybody has cell phones and everything else. It's a different world. Those days, I couldn't even call my parents if I wanted to, because they didn't even have a phone in the house. So the Rebbetzin kind of felt a little bit that she has to be a little bit like my mommy in a way too, because my parents are a million miles away. In any case, so let me go back into it a little bit to when the first day when I came to the Rebbetzin. So eventually I decided that I was going to say yes, that I'm going to kind of, devote my life to helping the Rebbetzin. Not that it takes entire hours or days, but it means you can't go to camp, be a counselor, whatever it is. You have to be in town. You can't go on Merkez Shlichus eventually. I totally knew that. You have to be around, always available, and you can travel or whatever it is. I knew that very well. Anyways, the first I came into the Rebbetzin. Let's get down to some actually things that, since we don't have all day, certain things that show what I just explained in the form of an introduction. So the first I came to the Rebbetzin, I basically called her up on the phone. I said, I'm the bacher who's supposed to come work for you. She knew that I was like in the pipelines, that eventually there is this bacher role or whatever that's eventually was probably going to wind up working for her, so to speak. So I called her up on the phone and I said, hi, my name is, this is all in Yiddish, but I'm saying it in English. Hi, my name is Mendel Notik. I'm the bacher who's supposed to come work for you. When can I come over? The Rebbe was already in 770. I made sure to that. And before I even finished, almost I can hear the Rebbetzin is like I know that you are eventually the guy or something. And says, do you know how to come to the back door? I said, yeah. She says, okay, I'll leave the door open for you. Like, so you don't have to get up, whatever. So, so until you get to the door, it's not very scary. Once you knock on the door, there's no return. And anyways, so I heard her say, yes, come in or something. I went to the back door, knocked on the door, and I came in. And I had seen the Rebbetzin many times before. And she said thank you to me on many occasions before. Either I delivered stuff to the house, but mostly she used to come to pick up her sister. The Rebbetzin used to drive, as I mentioned. She used to come to pick up her sister by 770. And since I guess you could say I'm the macher, so I'm always what I call Chabad Plaza, Lubavitch Plaza. I'm always in the 770 Plaza. When she picks up her sister, I happen to be on the sidewalk. When she comes to bring her sister back, I happen to be on the sidewalk many times. So I opened the door for her sister to get in the car, get out of the car. They're both saying me thank you. So I could recognize the Rebbetzin in a split of a second, just even from a sideline or whatever, because I've seen the Rebbetzin hundreds of times, most probably dozens and dozens of times. But when you come in and it's just you and the Rebbetzin, it's a completely different ballgame. Trust me. It reminded me when I was years back on Yeshivos, because when I came, there was still Yeshivos where Bochim can go in one-on-one for the birthdays. And you usually have a whole year preparation where people explain you what it is, and you do all the ruchnias and all the spiritual achanes, and you memorize the mimer, and. But the second the Bochim used to tap on the door a drop, before you go into the Rebbe's room, they always tell the Bochim in front of you, close the door, because we want to knock. We don't just come bursting into the Rebbe's room. I'm sure you people are aware that we do that at the oil also, that we tap on the door, and that we learned from the Rebbe actually. So the same in Yeshivos. So when the Bocher in front of you walks out after we fight and we tell him, no, you go, I'm not ready, I want to go in the back of the line. Finally, your turn comes up, it's 4 a.m, going to Yeshivos. Tap on the door. When you walk in there, there's no description. The whole year description they told you before pales. You're completely, I can't even describe it, at a loss. It's like scary beyond anything you can imagine. I mean, it's you and the Rebbe in the room. Even in the physical sense, if you could say it, it's scary. But you understand that the Rebbe sees your entire life, your being, in a split of a second. It's like it's an open page for the Rebbe, and it's pretty scary. When I walked into Rebbetzin, I got that feeling also. It took me a second to wow, did I really want to get into this? But, there's no turning back, so to speak. But this is what happened subsequently, because we need to move on a little bit. And please mention to me when it's 10 minutes before, otherwise we're going to be here by 5 p.m. So the Rebbetzin, this was a month before Pesach. And part of the reason I'd always said I didn't want to take the job, so to speak, because they explained me, that there's barely any real physical work. But like I said before, it's more keeping the Rebbetzin company, driving with her somewhere, Pesach, there's some real work, things she can do. The Rebbetzin is very careful to do things by herself. Anything she can't stand having somebody do anything for her. Anyways, I don't want to jump the gun, and I'll explain in a second how that plays itself out. So I was happily surprised when the Rebbetzin actually asked me that she prepared a bunch of stuff for me, like a bucket, it was like a Negelwasser Schissel, with a sponge or whatever, and she asked me if I can wash the towels in the kitchen. So I was so happy. I said, wow, Notik, look, you can actually be wrong sometimes. You didn't want to take the job because you thought that there was no physical work to do. In all the years I was there, it was probably the only physical job I did. Eventually, as I was becoming more what the Rebbetzin called the Eigener, when I was becoming part of the, I don't want to say the word family, but part of the group of people who are close, people of the household, the Bnei Beis, I would almost have to argue with the Rebbetzin when I wanted to do something, because certain things to me, they're so easy and so simple to do. Yet to the Rebbetzin, she perceives as hard work because she grew up in a home where there was a lot of help in Lubavitch. What we call in the Shnoisa Oyer in Lubavitch, in the days of the light of Lubavitch, before the Rebbe Rashab had to leave Lubavitch, and then the Friedrich Rebbe and all the Tzoros he had in Russia, they grew up in a home where there was a lot of help. So certain things are, in the Rebbetzins mind, are perceived that they're not work for somebody of your own household, so to speak. It's work for the maid who she used to have. In any case, so she told me if I can do this. I was super happy that there is real work. I said, okay, well, it's a real job. Okay. Then she opened up the refrigerator, and both of us looked inside. Now the Rebbetzin is very short, she's about this height. She didn't have to bend down to even look in the refrigerator. I kind of had to bend down a little bit. The refrigerator is still there. You can see it in pictures online. The refrigerator was empty pretty much. The Rebbetzin looked. I think she maybe felt a little bit bad that she wasn't better prepared because she didn't know it was coming that day. So she opened up and I think she says, "Do you like milk?" I said yes. I wasn't going to say no. And then then it was also seltzer. I don't think I've ever had a cup of seltzer in my life before that. And they used to come in certain glass bottles and had like a trigger on the top. They were heavy glass and super, super strong seltzer. And I'm in love with seltzer since, and cold milk. I can't get enough of it. And then she looked inside. I think it was maybe one other item, but I don't remember what it was. But eventually she learned what I liked, whether it was Danishes and stuff and certain fruits. And she always made sure to have that. It went so far. I know I'm veering off a little bit off the focus. It went so far that sometimes I used to be in Rabbi Lipska's store, which is now Beryl Kahn's store. The Rebbetzin used to order from there. Sometimes I would hear the Rebbetzin tell Rabbi Lipska and then Beryl Kahn that if you can send over like this and this and like milk, she says, I want to make sure if Nati comes over that there will be milk. Now, the funny thing is I heard the conversation, and sometimes I would deliver the milk through the back door, not ring the bell, or maybe ring the bell and go away. The Rebbetzin didn't know it was me. She'd be upset if it was me. Because in her perception and her mind, I already do so much for them that it shouldn't be, again, me bringing the milk. And then I would come back 2 hours later to drink the milk I delivered myself. How funny is that, right? The Rebbetzin would make sure that there's always to make me feel comfortable, make happy. But in any case, so she looked in the refrigerator, and we finished the refrigerator, and she tells me, if you need me, this is all in Yiddish, if you need me, you can either ring the bell, but the stairs there was a bell. She's going to go upstairs. Or you can rufen. In Yiddish, rufen is like you can call out, or it's almost you can shout in a way. Schneerson. No misses. Forget Rebbetzin. No misses, no nothing. It says, bedarft mir, könnt ihr rufen Schneerson und ich herabkommen. If you need me, you can call out Schneerson and I will come back down. And I'm thinking in my mind, right, you go upstairs and you wait for me to go, Schneerson, get down here. It's almost what it sounded to me in my head. And at this point, this all took seconds really, but I'm so uncomfortable. My chest is like plotting. I'm trying to okay, please go upstairs. Please go upstairs so I could breathe. I was so flustered. Anyways, so she started to take a little step to go upstairs. And she stops, says, Oi. She says, Chashinish vergessen. I nearly forgot, almost forgot. She says, you have to keep track of the hours that you work for me. And from time to time, I'm going to pay you. Can you imagine that? Just think about this for a second. How many of you would want to have the schus to deliver one time a bottle of milk by the Rebbetzin? Here I'm offered to pretty much be her assistant or helper for God knows how many years. And the Rebbetzin told me she's going to pay me. I'm already the macher in 770. It never even fell into my mind to ask for pay. I remember one time setting up the Verbringens, and I'm sorry that I go off a little bit off subject sometimes. It's just my style. I used to be what they call the Vada Masada. We used to set up the Verbringen, set up the Hanukkah rallies, everything you see on video. So you set them up for years. Not just myself, but I was like the head macher most of the time. So one time in the process, I ripped one of my shirts. And maybe I probably only had 3 shirts. And I ripped one of them, and I didn't have money. My parents are in France. I have no money or anything. So what do you do? So I went to Rabbi Gronel. I said, label. I ripped one of the shirts, and I have no other shirt, right? I understood it was the Rebbe's money, Merke's money, Lubavitch money, but what am I to do? So he opened up a drawer, whatever. They had a petty cash account or whatever. I don't remember the details. Excuse me. And he said, here, go to Zevela. Rabbi Katz, who is one of the Gaboyim, and everybody must probably know his name, called him then Zevela. He had a store on Kingston Avenue. The Rebbe used to get the handkerchiefs from that store. But in any case, says, go to Zevela, get 5 shirts. Said, no, Chaz v'sholom. I ripped one shirt. I just want to replace one shirt. I don't remember what the end result was. I think he forced me to get a few shirts. But in any case, imagine I wind up at the Rebbetzin and she's offering to pay me. Pay me? Hello? I'm here not because I'm looking for a job. I'm here because you are Rebbetzin Schneerson and you're the Rebbe's wife, the Friedrich Rebbe's daughter, and the Einikel of the Rebbe Rashab, and go all the way to the Alter Rebbe. I mean, Rebbe's and Schneersons in your lineage and in your family are like for 300 years. I actually got insulted. So I didn't know what to say. So I said, I'm very, very sorry. This is in Yiddish. I was in shock. I said, Entschuldigung sehr. but I wasn't told that you're going to pay me. And if you insist to pay me, I'm leaving. I was so in shock. I know it sounds like a lot of chutzpah. It's just what came into my mind. You're going to pay me? What do you mean you're going to pay me? I didn't even know how to react. Before I even finished saying that, the one time she interrupted me, in all the years I was helping her, she says, wegen dem nicht having was zu reden. This is like non-negotiable. There's nothing to speak about. And I'm standing there, I don't know what to say, like the story with the Asan and the Chumash. I'm between a rock and a hard place. And I want to say something, and she repeated herself, like, it's non-negotiable. If you want to work for me, so to speak, I'm going to pay you. So I don't know what to do. I was standing there completely flustered, and I don't know what to say. I mean, all of this is seconds, but it's like eternity. I finally realized, I said, Notik, you got to fix this. So I said, okay, you know what? I said, if you want to pay me, that's fine, but I'm not going to keep track of any cheshbonos, any accounting or anything. I'm not going to punch a time card. And if you want to keep track, that's fine. And you, like something I said, visach bakvem, like however you're comfortable, like you can do whatever you want. In nice words, I said that, the best words I could muster up. And she says, okay, like fine. Anyways, years later, when we used to already sit in schmooze and be very, I don't want to say friendly, but kind of, like I said before, like a Bobby telling stories to a grandchild. Sometimes she used to refer, like she said, you remember the first day you came to me? In other words, like, I got your number. I know how you operate, and I know you way how you work. Anyways, just to finish this very quickly, the Rebbetzin had some kind of a system how she kept track, and if at certain point she thought it was payroll time, and she didn't have it ready or whatever, she said, I don't want you to think I forgot or something. So I would just look at her, like I'd make a serious face a little bit. I'd say, like, don't we have an agreement? Like, I wouldn't say it in words, but she says, okay, I know. Then time later, time went and this and that. She started to tell me that she didn't forget that she has to pay me. So the payroll time came around. But she and her sister, then I started to work also for her sister, Hannah Gorai, Mrs. Gorai, who used to live in 770. So me and my sister decided to put together the monies that we pay you, because we want you to go and buy a winter coat. I said, okay, Shalom Alisol, at least I don't have to sit and spilkes every day to think that she's going to offer me the money, and I'm so comfortable picking it up from the table. Like, she would prepare bills on the table that had to be paid to both stores in Raskins and other stores on Kingston Avenue. And she says, this is for you, we're separate. There was no change there, it was only bills. Nichts gesundheit, using in good health, the famous expression in Yiddish. And I was so uncomfortable, but, we're done with arguments. We can't argue in Rebbetzin. I don't want to get paid. We're done with that. In any case, so it went and it went and it went. Finally came the big day, I guess, that the both of them decided that there's enough money in the bank, so to speak, in Mendel Notik's bank. And she offered to take me to Manhattan to buy a coat. So that was a big dilemma, because first of all, the Rebbetzin goes to stores. I don't even know the name still today, but it was all kind of high-end stores, because she doesn't want to be seen by other frum people or Lubavitchers who may know who she is or whatever it is. So she goes to stores where, in Manhattan, and the Rebbetzin also had very refined taste, and she would only want to get me the best coat. She was probably going to take me to, like, I think, Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale's, like the Chasheva places. She's not going to take me, on Kingston or 13th Avenue in Moshe's jackets. She's not going to do that. So I said, I appreciate it very much. I said, you don't have to bother with it. I promise you I'm going to get the coat you like. And if you don't like it, I'll show it to you. If you don't like it, I'll make sure that I can bring it back, and I'll get the coat that you like. She says, you sure? It's not a tircha. Excuse me. It's not about it. I'm happy to do it. And I don't know, maybe both sisters were going to go. Can you just imagine this? Me showing up with two bobbies. That would be two bobbies this time. To Saks Fifth Avenue, Bloomingdale. I had no idea what the stores look like. I just know, I think the Rebbe's shirt used to say Saks on them and the label. Excuse me, showing up with two bobbies. And if any Lubavitcher would see me, it wouldn't be hard for them to figure out. They didn't know I was working for the Rebbetzin. Hardly anybody knew. We kept everything very quiet. But it wouldn't be very hard for them to figure out that there is this aristocratic lady who beams and shines and clearly is a little different than most of the people in her, how she, maintains herself and how she interacts with people. And this little bachel is with her, and you would have figured out that the Rebbetzin is, shopping for me. Anyways, it all worked out fine at the end. Another little cute story involving also clothing. So, when you're a macher, and I never saw myself as an older bacher or anything like that. I mean, even now you see I come in short sleeves and without, I just like to be running around. I'm a macher, so I don't put on a jacket and tight and all of that. I just run around, of course, besides davening and all of that. So one time the Rebbetzin, I show up to the house, and the Rebbetzin says I happen to be on the east side. Those days, the east side was like Yerushalayim, like some street in Yerushalayim. Every store was owned by Jews. Everyone had mezuzahs, and everything is klei kodesh and sforim and tefillin and talesim and everything. I was already getting down a little bit, but still there was a ton of Yiddish stores. And she says, I happen to be in the east side. I guarantee you she went just for this. I can guarantee that. She says, I happen to be in the east side, and I picked you up a yarmulke, and I hope you like it and try it on. The truth is, I have it in the safe in Seattle. It would be nice if I bought it here, but I'm afraid to travel with it, so I keep all this stuff in the safe. But in any case, the Rebbetzin bought me a colorful yarmulke because I'm a young bach, I'm running around, and to her was like giving me a gift. So it was like burgundy with little gold around it. Anyways, she says, do you like it? I said, yeah, I knew right away I wasn't going to wear it because, 17, 18, 19, you're going to wear a color yarmulke. But I'm super excited to get the yarmulke from the Rebbetzin, so I need to be very careful what I say. So I wind up with the yarmulke, but I don't wear it. So in other ways, a couple of days go by, I'm back at the Rebbetzins house, and she says, ich sehe schon, als ich nicht bequem, oder gefällt euch nicht die yarmulke, something. I see that you don't like very much, or you're not comfortable with the yarmulke, maybe it's the wrong size, she tells me, and I kind of try to interrupt her. No. Because if she's not wearing it, she says, I must probably be there again soon, and I could exchange it for you. Like she's going to make another trip to the east side. Now, even for a young person, a great driver, the Rebbetzin then is in her 70s, mid-70s, driving on the east side of Manhattan is a nightmare. I can just imagine. The Rebbetzin had a car that was like half the length of the classroom, whichever direction you want to go. I could just imagine it was a nightmare driving there and finding parking. She tells me she was probably going to be there again, and she'll exchange yarmulke. I said, no, Rebbetzin, I'll tell you the truth. I didn't say Rebbetzin. I said, no. I said, I really like the yarmulke, but I want to keep it for Shabbos and Yantiv. Now, I wouldn't wear the yarmulke, not because it was color, because I wouldn't wear the yarmulke because the Rebbetzin gave it to me. I wouldn't wear it every day and get it lost in a mikveh or just, some other event. I wanted to keep it for special occasions only. So the next payroll rolls around, and so I see there's, again, bills on the table or whatever, and then there's money for me, and then there is separate money. I don't remember how much it was. She says, I'm sorry. So I told her I was going to, I'm keeping it for Shabbos and Yontiv. I think I mentioned that. Anyways, a couple of days later, a week or whatever, she said she has separate money for the payroll, separate, an additional separate money. She says, I see that maybe you don't like the yarmulke so much. So here's money, you buy yourself the yarmulke you like. So I actually went and I bought another yarmulke because it's her money, specifically for the yarmulke. And I don't wear that one either, besides for weddings of the kids sometimes, or Yom Kippur, I just touch it sometimes, I hold it and I put it back in the safe. So I have two yarmulkes from the Rebbetzin, so to speak. Anyways, let's go on a little bit to some stories about, or we're going to backtrack a little bit in Paris. Keep in mind the introduction that the Rebbetzin is not telling us what kind of great people they are, but from the stories the Rebbetzin told me, you can tell that other people that they interacted with, even a little bit, and I'm talking non-Jews, can tell right away that the Rebbe and Rebbetzin are just a different breed and a different category of people. Why am I saying that? The Rebbetzin told me that in Paris, or at least in part of the time they lived in Paris, the Rebbetzin told me that they lived in a building that a lot of very high-ranking officers in the French army and police and so forth, government officials, lived in a building with them. And when the Nazis were approaching France and Paris, one of the high officers who lived in the building suggested to the Rebbetzin, or to the Rebbe, but mostly to the Rebbetzin, I think, that if they want, he realized they were Jews and that it's going to be dangerous. I mean, enough was known that he realized that, it's not good for Jews to be when the Germans are going to come into Paris. So he offered his villa, his grand chateau that he had outside of Paris, and he offered that he would take him there to hide, because his understanding was that the Germans are coming this direction, Paris is here, and he's going to take him way further away from like where the Germans were coming. And the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin declined the offer. The Rebbetzin didn't tell me why, but they declined the offer. The Rebbetzin is trying to tell me how people were nice to them, because I was telling her, in my experience, 30, 40, 50 years later, how the Frenchies are not really, so we say, big Jew lovers. And we're comparing almost notes, my experiences as a child and what she remembers in her day. So she's telling me the stories, the interactions they had with the people. Obviously, the Rebbetzin almost, I don't want to say doesn't realize, but she doesn't want to make a point, or she's not making a point, that the people realize that the Rebbe Rebbetzin are made out of different material, and they wanted to help them. It turns out to be at the end that from whatever this person had, his villa, his big property, that he wanted kind of the Rebbe Rebbetzin to hide there until things would settle down with the Nazis and whatnot. Actually, it turned out to be that the Nazis actually came from that way. So they would have been endangered. In any case, what happened subsequently is either this higher ranking officer or another person in the same building took the Rebbe Rebbetzin when it was obvious they had to leave Paris and run away to the other direction, where, Vichy in France that were not yet conquered, or they were hoping wouldn't get conquered. This person put them on the train, on the last train that left Paris, and that's how the Rebbe Rebbetzin got saved, B'derech HaTeva. And after that, I think the Americans or the British, they bombarded the train tracks, so no trains could leave Paris. And the Rebbetzin told me, I remember this, that there were 1 million people in the train station. Now, you think it sounds like an exaggeration, but if you've ever been to those two big Grand Central stations in Paris, I think one is called Gare du Nord and one is called Gare du Lyon. I barely remember that. I left there when I was 15. You can actually hold 1 million people. And he managed to put him on the train, and the last train, because of who he was. It shows you that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin just had a certain way about themselves, emanated a certain light that even non-Jews, even regular people could see. Then when they winded up in Nisan Vichy, just to go a little bit further, the same trend continues. The Rebbetzin told me certain stories, again, not to say how great the Rebbe is, or just tell me how the life was. So a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, the Rebbe, because of his Hidurim in Kashrus, would barely eat anything, and it was wartime, so you can barely get anything. And I don't know if the Rebbetzin even had a shtickle kitchen where she can even make something, but the Rebbe wouldn't eat anything unless it was made by the Rebbetzin, and you can barely get anything. So one thing that's super, super important for sustenance is sugar, and it's the hardest thing to get during wartime. The Rebbetzin told me on numerous occasions, she repeated the story, where the management of the hotel where they stayed would hide. They realized that the Rebbe hardly eats anything, because maybe there was a public kitchen where you take things, or maybe the hotel offered some food, but they realized that the Rebbetzin didn't take any food. They would hide a little sugar, and the Rebbetzin told me that when she used to walk into the lobby, some of the management or the owners of the hotel would wink with the eye, to look behind the counter, and they had a little bit sugar hidden for the Rebbetzin, for the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. While we're talking about that hotel, something that the Rebbetzin also told me, and it's been written in many places, and there's follow-up and whatnot. In order to be able to, so this is wartime, and there's curfew. Curfew means that you can't be on the street past a certain time. I think in Crown Heights curfew is maybe 12, right? Starting at 12 years old, 12 midnight. After that, you have to be home, right? But in other places, if you're a teenager, in America, you have to be at home at 10 o'clock. But in any case, curfew means you can't hang out on the street past a certain time. It goes on even today when there's war zones everywhere. And in order to be able to, so when people are running away from different cities to run away from the Germans, they winded up in the faraway places where the Germans were not there yet, or hopefully would never make it there, just like the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. And you had nowhere to stay, so you wind up in a hotel. But in a hotel, you have to show a deposit. Those days, credit cards and stuff didn't exist, even if you're well-to-do. And the average person ran away the last minute. They most probably just took a little bag with them, towels that filled in or something, and they ran. And how do you come to a hotel? So you have to show that you have the ability to pay. What the hotel expected you, in order to register to stay in the hotel, including sitting in the lobby on the floor, the Rebbetzin told me, just to be in the building. We're not talking about a hotel room. Just to sit in the lobby on the floor, you had to show that you have ability to pay. So you had to show that you have a $100 bill. I think for comparison, not just the exchange of the money from then to now, but because it's wartime, because people ran away and the entire lives got destroyed and half of Europe is on fire, I think to show the equivalence of $100, we must probably have to say it's like $10,000 now. This is my sincere belief that that's what that meant. The average person didn't even know what it looked like. But the Rebbe did have, actually, and we don't know how, but we do know that part of the time the Rebbe actually ran because he was in Europe. It was safer than Russia and Poland, and Europe was not yet totally conquered, and France. The Rebbe was actually involved in helping the Frierdiker Rebbe in many ways, including some of the money that went to the Frierdiker Rebbe for all these activities in America already, and to save the Frierdiker Rebbe, all of that, a lot of the money and the askanas and the Rebbe was involved very, very heavily. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of letters and stories how the Rebbe was helping Frierdiker Rebbe pretty much run Lubavitch, for lack of a better expression, to keep it simple. So the Rebbe did have the money. So the Rebbe would walk around in the street. Imagine this, the Rebbe taking away from his time. The harvest soul of the Rebbe would take away from his time, from his life, and everything he did. Would go around in the street and see people that are, you could see they're, refugees, they're running away, they don't know where they're coming or going. The Rebbe would give them the $100, tell them to go register to the hotel, in the hotel. Eventually, they'll figure out how they're going to pay. The Rebbe started helping. For right now, we just need a place to be at night because the local government doesn't let you sleep in the street. So you can't be homeless. You cannot be homeless. So the Rebbe would give them the $100, tell them, go register, and I'll wait for you here. You come back, you bring the money. And then eventually the Rebbe had a couple other people even help him. The Rebbe had a whole mitzvah, I guess you can call it mitzvah harvest soul, or in this case, it's mitzvah saving people, literally. And again, the Rebbetzin is telling it to me just how life was complicated and what it took to survive. She's not telling it to me in the sense of my husband, the way she referred to him, is a great person. She said that many times in different ways, but she never, it wasn't her intention. Also, another story that involves Niso Vichy also involves money, Yiddish Geld, the way the Rebbetzin would refer to it, Jewish money. There was a person that was well-to-do at that time, and I think had run away from somewhere in France, and he also wound up in Niso Vichy. And at the time of war, the government expects you to turn in all the gold and valuables to the government, so they have money to execute the war, to fight the war. So this person didn't want to give away all the money to the government, and it's super strict. I mean, big punishments if you're hiding from the government, the money and the gold. This person had bricks of gold. We're not talking little pieces of gold. He had bricks. The way the Rebbetzin described that, she used the word in Russian, a kladovka, which means a closet, like a whole closet. When a person, that's how we kept it. So the person figured the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin are not known to be people with money. Nobody's going to come searching by them or looking to see if they have valuables or gold. But he was a known person, So he asked the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin if he can hide the gold by them. Now, if you ask me, that a little bit endangers their lives. But it is what it is. Wartime, you try, you do your best. So the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin agreed, basically. And the Rebbetzin said, like I said, he brought in, it was a whole closet. And as it was getting tighter and the Germans were getting closer and the French government, it was getting more and more dangerous. The Rebbetzin being worried mostly for the Rebbe, because the Rebbe is visibly, by the way he's dressed and the beard and everything, you can tell it's a Frum Yid. There's no hiding here. A woman can hide a little bit more. It doesn't scream, I'm Jewish. So the Rebbetzin tried maybe to suggest to the Rebbe that maybe we need to find some other solution to hide it, because endangering themselves, excuse me, which means when you take it years later, means endangering almost the future of Lubavitch. I'm going to say something I was probably never said, but I think it's almost a given when I think about it. I think the Rebbetzin knew eventually that the Rebbe is going to be the Rebbe. So in a way, it's almost like she's trying to protect the future, like I mentioned earlier, and trying to protect. When she's protecting the Rebbe, she's protecting the future of Lubavitch and all her father's work, like we said earlier. In any case, the Rebbe said that the Yiddish Geld, and we can't do this in Shongirun, we can't do this in Sheppen. It's Jewish money, Jewish value, and we can't touch it. In other words, the Rebbe kind of said it's going to be fine, and he's kind of taking it on his shoulders, so to speak. That's my understanding. What had happened at the end, actually, they never searched, as dangerous as it was getting, and very kind of stressful, because they were searching everywhere and the war was just raging. It wasn't, no end was seen, and the Germans were conquering more and more and more of France and Europe. Somehow the gold survived, and at some point the Rebbetzin told me that he came, and this person somehow loaded the gold in used tires, because apparently he told her afterwards what had happened. Maybe he told the Rebbetzin 20 years later what had happened, and managed to sneak it out from France to Switzerland, which was not involved in the war. How much more time do we have here? So let me try to get into some. Earlier I mentioned about the Rebbe's Hidurim. You can say, oh, we all know the Rebbe is Mahader and Humorous. Certain things, the Rebbe was almost Moisa Nefesh on something that we perceive as a simple minhag. And of course, it says in many places that a minhag is in a way almost more important than certain things that are outright in the Torah, but we're not going to go into this now. The Rebbetzin told me that one of the years they were in France, in Vichy or Nice, for Pesach, the Rebbe wanted to have onion for karpas. Now, we know that we can use many other things, a potato, this and that, but it's Lubavitch custom that we use onion, and maybe the Rebbe saw it in his father's house, and it's Kalpi Kabbalah. I don't get involved in that, completely above my pay grade. So the Rebbetzin told me that her husband wanted Davke to have onion, and this is during wartime. So for some reason, it's a very precious commodity. Onion is a very precious commodity during wartime. I think it's even involved in building some bombs or something like that I once heard, but I could be wrong. The Rebbetzin said that the Rebbe went on a cable car, which any day of the year I think would be pretty dangerous. But now we're talking in a wartime, a war zone, pretty much a war zone. And she told me these words in Yiddish, I'll never forget this. I didn't know if I was ever going to see him again. She was so worried. I think she said the Rebbe left like for a day. And I ride on a cable car to wind up in another faraway cities that he heard, or possibly there you can get onion. She says, I think she said, I didn't know if I was ever going to see my husband again. So much did had to live through, and so much involved for the Rebbe to be able to keep up, even under the hardest of circumstances, to keep up with his Hidurim and his Humorous. Just some little cute things about me, but it shows again the Rebbetzin trying to make me feel comfortable and Hamish. I'll go through a couple of very quick things. Most of the time that I was there, I would try very hard not to be in the house when the Rebbe is there, because I don't want to infringe on the little bit of time the Rebbe is home, like I mentioned earlier. But certain times of the year, especially Purim, Pesach, on and off, I have to be there, just because of everything that's going on. So I try not to, so to speak, what I call bumping into the Rebbe, but many times you just can't. But the Rebbetzin actually wants to give me the honor to open the door for the Rebbe, close the door behind him, because she knows that I see that as a covet. Even though she always says, I'm just Mrs. Schneerson. She's very well aware that the Rebbe is the Rebbe, and that we are super happy to do anything we can for the Rebbe, to open the door, close the door after the Rebbe leaves, stuff like that. So I wound up on numerous occasions, especially on Purim, I remember that vividly, there was always no way out. And Purim always kind of had to be in the Rebbe's way when he was leaving the house. And I stayed there while the Rebbe was having the Suda. I wasn't taking part in that. I was in a different part of the house, because people were calling on the phone and both doorbells were ringing. Everybody's bringing Shalach Manes. So always it was there on Purim. Anyway, so on the way out, the Rebbetzin says, if it's not hard for you, please, if you can, walk my husband and close the door. So I stayed there. I wait for the Rebbe to go. He opened the door, but I just closed behind him. Anyways, he passes, gives me a big smile, and he says, Freilich Purim. And I'm standing there and shaking, waiting for the Rebbe to pass. It's like almost scary. One time, so I walked behind the Rebbe. One year I remember. So I came to the door. The Rebbe opened the door, and he left it open. I was going to close it behind him. And as the Rebbe opened the door, there were some girls from some Meiset, from some school in Comets, so bringing Shalach Manes, a huge basket. I bet you they made a raffle, a girl who's going to be Zoichet to carry the Shalach Manes. They rang the bell, and we were walking to the door. So we were both going together. The Rebbe was going in front of me, and I was behind the Rebbe. But I think in their reception, they figured that the Heisbacher, or the person helping, working, is going to open the door. But as the Rebbe opened the door, they nearly dropped the whole thing. But they were getting ready to present the basket, because they assumed it was going to be me or whoever was helping. It's okay, you can laugh. So they're trying to present the basket to the Rebbe, but the Rebbe realizes that they don't want to really give it to him. They realize that they want to give it to the garçon, right, to the helper. So the Rebbe goes to them like this. I think you want him, or you mean him? Before they realized the Rebbe was already down the stairs, they nearly dropped the basket. So that's one of them. But the more important thing I want to say is the Rebbetzin, who's walking kind of a little bit way behind us. She thinks she's making me feel comfortable. She's trying to make me feel comfortable. She always has this line. She says, "Der Notik, jeder Mal was sagt, dir wird zu dreisolt. Ich halte mir ein Sorgen, du beißt keinem nicht." This is in obviously in Yiddish. Says the Notik, this Notik. Every time he sees you, gets totally shaken up. And I keep telling him that you don't bite anyone, as if that's going to make me feel comfortable and that's going to help. But that was her way of trying to make me feel comfortable. One time, how much more time do we have? A few more minutes? One time, the Rebbetzin asked me, do I like pomegranate? I said, yes. I figured either she had in the fridge, or I don't even know what had happened. The pomegranate has 613 kernels, supposedly. I never counted it. But in any case, so I said, yeah. Okay, I don't think of anything. The next day or something, I show up. Listen, the Rebbetzin took the pomegranate for me, for the big macher. She took it apart, took off every little white speck that's around the seeds. She had it in a little crystal dish with a spoon, and I'm supposed to sit in it in front of her. So I looked at it. She says, "Oh, I prepared the pomegranate for you." I nearly like fainted. Are you kidding me? It most probably took an hour to do that. You know, I was going to make a joke. I was going to say Rebbetzin. I hardly ever refer to it as Rebbetzin, but this time I would have to remember in my head, vividly remember, I was going to say, Rebbetzin, did you take it apart? Because I was so uncomfortable. So I was going to say, Rebbetzin, did you take it apart so you can see if it's actually 613? Because I hardly ever refer to her as any name. But in all the years I was there, maybe only a dozen times I said Rebbetzin to her. And I want to go back to something else that I mentioned earlier. Even though I was a paid helper, young bacherol, the Rebbetzin tries to go out of the way not to have me do what she perceives as hard work. So like one time we were sitting in the little kitchenette table. Sometimes the house is open all the way. You can see the house. I don't know if any of you have been there. Excuse me. So there's a little kitchen table that's smaller than this. So when I sit there, I'm almost in her face. So she says, I have to remember later to go hang up my husband's shirts to dry. So I tell her, I said, I'll go and do it. Then you have to think for a second. She says, no, in Yiddish. Nicht das habe ich gemeint. It's not what I was saying, not what I meant. I didn't want you to do it. I was just reminding myself, and I was talking to myself. I said, what is the big deal? I said, I said, it's not work. I said, in my parents' home, we had 10 kids. She knew all my history, and she already knew that. I said, we had 10 kids. We didn't even have a dryer. What is the work to hang up shirts? But to her, it's perceived as not the work of an eigener mensch, not somebody who's from the household. Because in the days of light in Lubavitch, and that both sisters explained me on numerous occasions. There was the people who took care of the horses to travel. There was the person who took care of the wood, like the Humorous says, there was different people who do different things. The person who's in charge of the horses and the wagons, he doesn't climb up on the ladder in the Frierdiker Rebbe or in the Rebbe Rashav's, my grandfather's Cheder of Yechidas, the way they used to refer to it in the cabinet, means like an office, I think, in Russian, to get a safer. So the Rebbe has a certain perception, and you can't argue with that. It's ingrained in her. Anyways, I said, it's nothing for me. She says, no. Anyway, she got a phone call. I went downstairs, hung up the shirts. Took me 5 minutes. I don't know why she used to hang them up to dry. I think that maybe it's easier to iron. When her maid would come, she would iron them. I think when you let them dry on a clothesline. Anyway, she called me at 11 o'clock at night. I didn't want you to do it. I didn't want you to do it. Like, it's hard work for me. I said, it's nicht schwere Arbeit, das ist gar nicht von mir. Anyway, so some of the things that happened during all those years, I don't remember what was first, what was second, but then came a big problem. One time, I think we'll finish with this. One time, otherwise you let me know, I'll go on. One time I was, the Rebbetzin was sitting in the little dinette, and I was standing by the sink and I'm getting an ice cream that she used to make sure to have in the house for guests, or in case Notik comes by, she always needs to have some goodies for me. So, and we're just schmoozing, right? She's sitting like in the dinette, and I'm in the kitchen, and I suddenly hear the door in the front. Means the Rebbe came home. The Rebbe would kind of slam the door a little bit so he could announce he's coming, so the Rebbe doesn't get startled. And also the door used to scrape a little bit, one of the doors. But as soon as I hear the Rebbe, so I know I have to get going or whatever, I disappeared through the back door. Anyways, I'm in the middle of eating an ice cream. I'm not going to dump the ice cream, and the whole thing was like, I'm not going to run. And the Rebbe can tell if someone is home and he stays more in the front of the house. He wouldn't come in through the kitchen or the little hallway. And on occasions when I was there, I would close the door so I don't see the Rebbe or interfere with him, so to speak. And one time he ended up I'm closing the door and the Rebbe's trying to reach for the same door. He wants to close it too. He wants to give me my privacy, so to speak, because I was in the kitchen and the hallway is right next to it. And the Rebbe was taking off his hat and his satuk. In any case, the Rebbetzin stood up to greet him, which, by the way, every time I was there, the Rebbetzin would always stand up to greet the Rebbe when he walked into the house. The house is a very long house, as you can see. I'm sure you've been there or outside. Anyway, so the Rebbetzin, I'm with the ice cream. Schmutzing with the Rebbetzin, I hear the door, and the Rebbetzin stood up to greet the Rebbe. Says, oi, what schleppst du? Notik is doch da. So I'm thinking really quick, what? The Rebbetzin says, what are you schlepping? So it took me a second. I put together the whole scenario. I says, Notik is here. So I put together the whole scenario. Apparently, they delivered in the front a produce delivery from Raskin's, maybe new delivery boy or something, left it in the front instead of in the back. You're supposed to bring it to the back. You ring the bell. The Rebbetzin takes out one item at a time, or if any of the Rebbetzins helpers or come around the house, they will take it in. But they left in the front. The Rebbe sees the box. It was, believe it or not, a banana box. Can you just imagine? The Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Chvoide Batzmoy, in the hat, in the sartuk, and you can hear him walking. There was no carpet. There was only a little rug in the front. And the Rebbe walks like like the sergeant, the Tzivos Hashem sergeant he is, and you can hear the Rebbe walking. And the Rebbetzin got all shaken after the Rebbe schlepping the box. But as she said that, she says, oi, was schleppst du? Notik is doch da. Like, I could do it. The Rebbe says, from far I could hear, Notik is Zechayid. When I heard that, I knew that this wasn't going to be very well, because after all the arguments I already had with the Rebbetzin about what I could do and not do, and she's not allowing me to do any work, this is not going to work very well. The Rebbe is saying Notik is also Yid, so why should he do it? I could do it. So I knew that wasn't going to play very well. Anyways, a little time goes by, and I wanted to do something, and the Rebbetzin says, she says, no, I'm going to do it later or something. She says, you remember what my husband said? So at the beginning, I figured she's going to say it a few times to be cute, and the Rebbe mentioned my name, and she wants to make me feel comfortable, but like she's going to forget about it, or she's going to get over it, for lack of a better expression, and she's not serious about it. But then I saw she's serious. She reminded me, like I wanted to do something, whatever it was. Oh, you remember what my husband said? So one time I was sitting in the kitchen, and she mentioned it again. I said Rebbetzin. So when I say Rebbetzin, she knows it's an official. I'm addressing her officially, so to speak. She sits. She gets almost straightens up a little bit on the chair, and she gets serious. I said, if you're going to keep repeating that, I'm going to have to tell the Rebbe. I'm going to have to master. I told her, actually use that word. I think I'm going to have to master to the Rebbe that since he said that, you're not letting me do anything. So she says, okay. I know who I'm dealing with. In other words, okay, I know you're going to do it. So we got over that. One time she saw me that I was with a bunch of other bachim who were cleaning. To give you an example, how serious she was. She wasn't joking. She was serious. One time, I came with other bachim to help clean the snow in the driveway so the Rebbe can get in, I think, to the driveway, or even for the Rebbe. I don't remember. She happened to see me. She didn't say anything because there was a bunch of other bachim. But the next day or something, when I came to her, she says, I saw you in the driveway and you shouldn't be doing that. I said, why? Why? Said, it's my pleasure or whatever. She tells me, ihr tut schon genug, andere mögen nicht getan. She says, you already do enough for us? As if I do. And she's paying me. But that's her feeling. I already do enough for the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. And other people are also allowed to do for my husband, she said. Andere mögen nicht getan. No, she didn't say for me. She says, andere mögen nicht getan. Maybe she said for my man. I'm not sure. She wanted to show that it was for him and not for her, because who is she that anyone would want to clear her driveway? And she forbade me to be involved in extracurricular activities that other bachim, can do and share in that sense. One other cute story. Again, it shows the Rebbe's personality and us trying to make me convenient. So I'm telling you stories that happened with me, because if I tell you stories that are written in books, you can read them. You don't need me. So one time the Rebbetzin had a big spread on the table when I came home. She must have been entertaining. And the people were not there when I came. When I came to her house. And she says, please help yourself to the table, this and that. And she says, you see that little toy on the table? So I look around. I see there's a big, like a keychain. It had a front plate of gold that somebody brought her as a gift, I guess. Or maybe the Rebbetzin had it, so when younger kids come, little kids, they can entertain themselves. And it had a key. You wind it up, and it plays a tune. So she says, try it. Okay, so I try it. So I wasn't just going to turn it one little dial. So I started to turn it, and I'm turning. I finally got to the end of it, because I figured, if it's going to play a tune, may as well play the whole entire tune. So I put it on the table, and it starts to sing. No other song than Hava Nagila Hava, which used to be, by the way, a Hasidic song, but over the years it became a more modern song, so Lubavitch really doesn't sing it anymore. Because the tune, the way you may know it, is Hava Nagila Hava, or in tunes, ting, ting. Anyways, but I remember when I was a little kid in Paris or whatever, the big Hasidim used to sing, Hay Ladra, ya. That was their version of Hava Nagila Hava before it became a popular modern street tune. Anyways, I wind it up and it starts to sing, goes ding, ding. It seems like it's going to go mamash till Mashiach comes. And it's not stopping, but we're ignoring it. We don't, we're just playing in the echo of the house. Suddenly I hear the door slam in the front, which means the Rebbe came home. And this thing is playing. It's not stopping. And there's no way to stop it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is really a funny situation. Like in my head, I'm thinking so quick, oh my gosh, this is like really silly. And so the Rebbetzin, again, she stands up to greet the Rebbe, but something had to be said because the whole house has the tune of ding, 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 ding. It's going really slow, like the Geula is coming real slow. And so the Rebbetzin stood up to greet the Rebbe, and something had to be said because it was the weirdest situation almost. She says, the Notik or the Zugegret Kabbalah Spanim. Notik prepared for you like a welcoming mat. And I'm standing in the kitchen. I think I actually went with my hand like this. And, I grabbed my jacket real quick, or I think I closed the door because I wasn't really doing anything. I closed the kitchen door, which was a door that swings both, like double swings both ways. And it just went like this, and I ran through the back door, and I'm going like this. The situation with the Rebbetzin, like telling me and the Rebbe in front of the Rebbe, like Notik gets so shaken up, happened on numerous occasions. We still have a little time here. So this is actually a real funny situation where you sometimes, again, it's almost... the Rebbetzin go so out of the way to like take care of me and make sure I'm taken care of that I actually almost got into trouble. So this is a very interesting story. This is not written anywhere. So one time on the night of B'dikas Comets, the Rebbetzin asked me if I can go to Kingston Avenue to get something that she needed for Pesach or whatever. She says, I'll leave the door open, means she pushes in the button. So I'll just go really quick back and forth. And I knew that the Rebbe was eventually going to come home fairly early, do B'dikas Comets. He's supposed to do it early in the night. But even without cell phones, without a watch, I had a pretty good idea when the Rebbe comes and goes. It's almost like you get used to your own clock in some way. And so I went quickly. It was maybe around 8, 9 o'clock. I went quickly. And because I want to come back before the Rebbe gets home and starts B'dikas Comets, because I don't know what's going to happen then. I don't want to bump into him and interfere with the B'dikas Comets or be in the house or whatever. I always go out of the way not to be home when the Rebbe is home, unless I have to, unless the Rebbetzin asks me to. And we're talking before Lamed Ches, so it was a lot easier. There wasn't need for so much help. Before the Rebbe had the heart attack on Lamed Ches. Then things changed a lot then. Then I used to serve the meals on Friday night. Things changed dramatically. But before that, I go out of the way not to interfere with the little bit of private time the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin have. Anyways, I come running up the driveway, and I see a candle in the basement. So I know what the Rebbe is doing B'dikas Comets, and he's starting from the bottom because I know by the time he couldn't have had done the whole house. So I'm going really quick up the driveway. I want to bring whatever I was bringing to the Rebbetzin because I want to get out before the Rebbe winds up upstairs. Anyway, so I come into the kitchen. I don't take off my coat, nothing. I'm standing mamish by the entrance, and I'm handing. I don't even want to go into the house because I'm zittering that the Rebbe any minute is going to be upstairs. I just see it. I can feel it in my bones. Anyways, the Rebbetzin said, oh, in Yeshiva, they must probably already ate dinner, they already ate supper, let me see what I could prepare and make something. I said, no, please, don't worry, I'll eat. No, it's Erev Pesach, the kitchen was probably closed. I can't argue with her, she can have the last word. So she opens the refrigerator, she tries to put together, scramble something in the refrigerator. And as I'm standing there and I'm like panic-stricken, I could relive it now. The door opens up from the basement, or the Rebbe comes up from the basement, completely what I call with the Shmoyne of Godim, like the Kohen Gadol. The hat, you have to understand, you feel like a little ant. The hat, the sartuk, the gatul, the candle. I think he also, I can't remember now the details, if he had a bag in his hand to put in, whatever he was collecting. But the whole mara, the whole vision of it, it's like taking up the entire physical room of the kitchen in my eyes, and I'm standing there, but I can't get out. Am I going to run away? I mean, the Rebbe is trying to prepare me supper. Anyways, and then the Rebbe is advancing towards me. So I'm standing literally by the door. There's a little bit of space behind me. I'm standing here. There's like a door here. An opening of a door, just a mezuzah, a Pesach, shape of a door, and the opening. There's no door. I'm standing there, and the Rebbes are coming towards me. So I figured that he wants to get into this little place there that's literally 3x2, 3x4, a little teeny space. So I try to, and the door, so when I'm standing here, the Rebbe is coming this way. When I'm standing here, right, if I wanted to get outside, it would be hard because that door to go outside opens inwards. There's like almost no room. You have to like squeeze through. So I'm trying to motion with my body language to the Rebbe, and he tries to come into this little room, right? But there is no room there. So I'm trying to motion with my body language to the Rebbe, like, if you get out of my way, I can get out of your way. I'll come into the kitchen so you can go where you want to go. But it seems the Rebbe is like not, keeps looking and is not like, getting my vibe, my idea. So this goes on for a few seconds, and then the Rebbe says, pay attention. The Rebbe says, did you take something? Now, can you imagine this? Just the Rebbe's in the middle of Dukas Comets, and I know you don't talk in the middle. Did you take something? Now I'm thinking, I'm Mendel Notik. I'm working for the Rebbetzin in your house. Do you think I would be taking something here? I'm here because I'm trustworthy, right? What do you mean did I take something? I said, no. Nein, it's in Yiddish. I said, nein. So the Rebbe keeps looking, and he asked me again. And I said, again, I'm denying that I took anything. I'm like beyond shocked that the Rebbe thinks I took something. Anyways, this goes on for a little bit, I think maybe 3 times. And at the 3rd time, I think I realized what had happened. When I came into the house, I'm standing there. I wasn't going anywhere. The Rebbetzin used to have a little garbage can that worked like with a foot pedal. But the Rebbetzin even used the inside of it because the both of them, they barely eat and they don't really produce any schmutz. So the Rebbetzin used to put a little, like a lunch bag on top of the can. And that was a little bit of garbage. And whoever the people of the house, me or whoever else, would go outside when they would leave through the back door, we take it, we dump it in the alley where there was a garbage can. So the Rebbe is doing B'dikas Chometz, and I see this little piece of schmutz on top of the garbage can. So what are you going to do? It's B'dikas Chometz night. So I took it and put it in my pocket. So finally, after the 2nd or the 3rd time, I realized what the Rebbe wants. I said, at first I didn't deny it. I said, nay, garnish, like I didn't take anything. But I think the Rebbe pretty much obviously realized that I did take. So I ripped it out of my pocket. I said, I'm sorry, garnish gemeint. I didn't mean anything. Like I wasn't stealing or anything. And I ripped it out of my pocket and I gave it to the Rebbe. What was it? One of the 10 pirurim or birurim that the Rebbetzin had prepared to do B'dikas Chometz, and apparently the Rebbetzin put it around the house, and one was sitting on top of the garbage can, and I'm trying to steal it so the Rebbe can finish B'dikas Chometz. So he took it, so I gave it to him like so quick. I was like so shikker. I was like, didn't know what to say. I got totally flustered. The Rebbe walks away, with the candle and everything. The Rebbetzin standing behind him with the biggest smile on her face, repeating again the exact same thing. The Notik. First of all, I realized she was laughing while this whole ordeal was going on. I'm like panic-stricken, and she's actually having a big laugh of the situation of me having a little, rai almost with the Rebbe. And as the Rebbe walks away, the Rebbe is standing by the sink, and she says, "The Notik, yadam zetir," the same line, and I keep telling him that you don't bite anyone, and there's nothing to worry about, trying to make me feel comfortable, but it wasn't so didn't go that easy so well. I think a lot of the people listening are most probably shluchim, and I hope that everyone sees themselves as a shliach one way or another, even if they don't get a check from an organization or anything. The Rebbetzin was always taking huge interest in the shluchim's work, was so proud of their work. I was kind of the liaison also. I would know what's going on all over the world because I was in 770. These are before the ways of communication we had now, but if a big shliach came and was there, if a new mitzvah tank came, if shluchim went to Eretz Yisrael, if Begin came to the Rebbe and all of that, I was always there. So I was able to, communicate with the Rebbetzin, give over what's going on and so forth. She took great interest, was in awe in 101 ways. She used to tell me she's in awe how the shluchim go out from a warm place, from their families, from a comfortable place, to the farthest places where there's no Chol of Yisrael and there's no Jewish life. Always used to talk about that. Great admiration for the shluchim, and I guess you can say it was also part of the Rebbe that he was able to create this whole world of shlichus and whatnot. I think earlier I mentioned, that I was involved in many things still going on in 770. So even after I was married, I was also still trying to keep, shall we say, my little footing in 770. So the Prime Minister of Israel, I think that was maybe in 77, 78, something like that, in the Fall Ches, came to see the Rebbe. So I was privileged actually that I was allowed to be in the Rebbe's room. And you had to have a button that the State Department or one of the government agencies issued. There were 2 kinds of buttons. One was a G, which means general, that you can be in the building of 770. All these people had to be super screened. No one else can be in 770 while he was there, when he came with his entourage on the way to Washington. And And then there was one that was R, as in rabbi, but meaning restricted. Everyone had one of those, and they were all checked with the Social Securities in Washington. Besides the Rebbe, and there's pictures. Besides the Rebbe, begging, and maybe one other person. Everyone, the Maskirim, Rabbi Groner, all the rabbis, Rabbi Chadakov, everyone, Rabbi J.J. Hecht was there, whoever was there, everyone had to have a button. Anyways, I was privileged to be inside. Another occasion that I was privileged to be inside, which was a kind of a low-key event, was when the Belzer Rebbe came, what the Belzers refer to as the first official visit when he became officially, he became a Rebbe as a very young, almost as a child, because his uncle or his father, I think his uncle passed away. So when he became Rebbe, at some point he did what they called a triumph trip, like the big major trip in America, and he came to see the Rebbe, get a bracha from the Rebbe, and see the Rebbe. So I was privileged to be there also. At that time I was already married, so I already was obviously involved with the Rebbetzin and everything. And part of the reason I came there also is to kind of make sure that things don't get touched in the room, because in some other circles, you can be a little bit more Hamish in the Rebbe's room, and they're used to giving like the hand, so they have a little different approach and a little different, maybe lack of distance to the Rebbe's. I'm not saying Chal Shalom in a bad way, but I felt there should be somebody, a little macher in the room to protect and whatnot. So anyway, so there's pictures from that event, and I wanted to give a souvenir to you guys today. So with the help of my friend Rabbi Cohen in the back, we came up with some idea. First, I was maybe going to give a little Mincha Ma'ariv or something, but I think everybody knows Mincha Ma'ariv by heart. With a show of hands, who doesn't? Just kidding. You don't know? Okay, I'll get you Mincha Ma'ariv. So we didn't do that. So we decided to give a little souvenir, and I'll explain in a second what the picture is. I think maybe after we go offline. Anyways, a concluding statement that I would want to say, so to speak, in conclusion, that we need to learn from the Rebbetzin. Obviously, we mentioned a lot about the Rebbe. We need to learn from the Rebbetzin, her ways. That makes the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, I would say, very happy. And it was enjoyable to be here face to face, and all the people around the country that are listening. We should learn from the Rebbetzin, and please utilize all the technologies that exist, starting from books that were written in every language. We hope to have maybe a website up in the next year, in this coming year, a little bit more sophisticated, where all of this will be gathered. There's booklets and pamphlets. You can watch gem videos. There's a ton of people that speak about the Rebbetzin that were intimately knew the Rebbetzin. There is more coming out soon. Some person who used to be involved with the Rebbetzin almost her entire life, and she's about 80 now, or she's in her 70s or 80s. And hopefully her interview will start coming out. Chabad.org has a lot of stuff. I'm not endorsing any technology. I'm just saying, if you're already watching this stuff, please take the time. There is a lot to be learned from Ben Adam Lamakim, but most of Ben Adam Lechaveret that we can tell. The Rebbetzin was a phenomenal person in her own rights, and what she gave us, and as a thank you to her, if we try to imitate her and learn from her, that'll be for her zikaron, for her memory, and it will be Mekayim what the Rebbe said, V'chai yitenu libay.